let's find all of the complex zeros of the function f of x is equal to 8x to the fourth minus 18x to the third plus 9x squared plus 4x minus 3. The first thing we must do is find out what they might be. So we have to find all of the possible zeros. To do that, I find all of the factors of my last term, so 3, which are just 1 and 3, divided by all of my factors of the first term, which is 8. My factors of 8 are 1, 2, 4, and 8. So the ones that it might be are plus or minus 1 divided by 1, which is 1, plus or minus 1 divided by 2, which is 1/2, plus or minus 1 divided by 4, which is 1/4, plus or minus 1 divided by 8, which is 1/8, plus or minus 3 divided by 1, which is 3, plus or minus 3 divided by 2, which is 3/2, plus or minus 3 divided by 4, which is 3/4, and then plus or minus 3 divided by 8, which is 3/8. So now that we know what it might be, we need to now find out what they are. So I have to test all of these. So I'm going to start with 1. Let's test our 1 first. And to do that, we're going to put the 1 inside of that little square. And we will now use everything that's right here. So I have an 8, negative 18, 9, 4, and the negative 3. I'm going to leave a little space right here and then draw a line. First thing I do is I bring this first term straight down. And so I have an 8, so I'm just bringing 8 straight down. Then I do 8 times the 1 that's right here. 8 times 1 is 8. Then I add these up. Minus 18 plus 8 is negative 10. And then multiply it by 1 again, which is negative 10. Add those up. Negative 1 times 1 is negative 1. Add those up. 4 minus 1 is 3. 3 times 1 is 3. Add those up. 0. And that's what we want. We should get this as my last term. Because we get this, we know the number 1 is a 0. Therefore, I know I can rewrite the function we had to start with. I could rewrite that as x minus 1 because of this 1 times, right here I have 8, so it'd be 8x to the third minus 10x squared minus x plus 3. So far I know what one of them are. I get 1. So now I do the same thing, but now I'm working with this new thing that I have right here. I'm working with this now. So I follow the same steps I just did with my new thing. But then see right here, I still have a 3, and that's what we had. And I still have an 8, and that's what we had right here. So I can use the same list we made. Okay, so now I'm doing the exact same thing I just did, but with this guy. I'm still going to start with 1, because as you know, 1 could happen twice. So I'm doing the same thing, and I still want to start with 1. So, still going to put a 1 in here, but I'm using my new stuff. So now I have 8, negative 10, negative 1, and 3. Bring 8 straight down, times 1 is 8. Add those up is negative 2, times 1 is negative 2. Add those up and we get negative 3, times 1 is negative 3. Add those up, and then look here too, I get the same thing. Since we got that, 1 is a 0 again. So 1 happens twice. So from the last one, we already knew we had x minus 1. And from what we just got, we get x minus 1 again. Remember, I happened twice. It happened the first time right here, and then right here too. And I'm left with, I have an 8, so it's 8x squared minus 2x minus 3. Now that I have it down to a quadratic, we factor this just like we have been this whole class. This is exactly like we've done this entire time. So remember, we always do a times c. Our a is 8. C is negative 3. So we get negative 24. So I have to find the factors of negative 24, whose sum is equal to the minus 2. My first pair could be 1 and negative 24, but if we add those up, we get negative 23, so no good. I could have 2 and negative 12, add those up, we get negative 10, so no good. 3 and negative 8, add those up, we get negative 5, so no good. But if we do 4 and negative 6 and add those up, we get the minus 2, and that's what we want. So to factor this, we leave 8x squared. But now I have plus 4x minus 6x, and then we leave the minus 3. From our first two terms, I can take out a 4x, and we're left with 2x plus 1. From these two terms, we can take out a negative 3, and we're left with 2x plus 1. Factor this out, and we see both terms have a 2x plus 1, and we're left with 4x and minus 3. And then from before, we know we have x minus 1 twice. So now that we rewrote it, I can see my 0 from the first one is a 1, because if I did x minus 1 is equal to 0 and solve that, add 1 on both sides, and we get x equals 1. I get the same thing right here because they're the same, so x equals 1 here. From this one, if we solved that, 2x plus 1 is 0. Subtract 1, divide by 2, and we get x is equal to negative 1/2, which was on our list if you look. 1/2 right here, so we know that's good. Do the same thing for 4x minus 3 is 0. Add 3, divide by 4, x is equal to 3/4, which was also on that list.